Hey guys, welcome back to the Diet Doc Life Mastery Podcast. We are in the coaching clinic today, and I am on location in Sioux Falls, South Dakota with Austin.kjergaard,
Hey.
who is the owner of Perform Right. So you're going to learn a lot about Austin in this episode because he has many facets. He is not only a professional bodybuilder and an online coach, he's also a dietetic student. He manages a region of great life golf and fitness and nutrition facilities. So an incredible business model concept there. So let's just get started right away, Austin, with why did you even choose this kind of career? What made you go from a business graduate to wanting to be in the coaching arena?
I was a big fan of sports, was going to go to college to play sports, realized that I wanted to try something different. I had heard of bodybuilding. Was curious more about it, was curious about personal training, and I wanted to run my own gym. So that was kind of the business marketing side of me from some people that had given me some advice along the way to learn the business marketing. If you want to run and own a gym, you should learn these things. Now, this was in 2007, so social media was just kind of in a lot of early stages of its infancy. It hadn't blown up to the way things are now. Because now marketing and business has changed quite a bit since then, obviously. So walked into a local shop here in town. They had all the bodybuilding and fitness magazines. I was just seeing what there was, and I saw natural bodybuilding and fitness, and I didn't know that was really a thing at the time, and saw you all over the magazine, your articles. I was reading it. I couldn't put it down. I was like, this is super fascinating. Looked you up online and really started diving into this, and did a couple shows where, after getting some advice and reading some articles and stuff, and prepped myself for my first two, three smaller shows, and then saw some success in the first two small shows, saw some more success in the bigger couple shows, and I was like, this might be something that I could be pretty good at if I decided. And I was just having a lot of fun. I was able to see changes. Every piece of work that I put into it, I was seeing a return on investment from, just within myself. And then seeing some stuff that you and Dr. Norton had put out, obviously just different articles and different things. I was like, man, these guys are not only living the sport, but they've got the background for it. And in any sport in the world at that time, for me, that was hard to find. So it was like I related to finding a strength coach that's trying to teach, an NFL player who had never played in the NFL before. It just, for me, I'm not saying that was a criteria you should have had, but it was very interesting just of a concept that I saw. So even the same thing, like you have D1 strength coaches, and they didn't even play D1. They went to got school, and they had the background and they had the knowledge, which is phenomenal. But I still thought that there was an important part of living and practicing what you preach, and you guys had done that on both facets. And I was like, this is really cool. This is something I could get into, and got into a little bit of some coaching early on too. And
so you hired a coach?
I hired a coach for myself, and then saw that could be also something I could get into. And I was like, I love helping people. I had a lot of help growing up, and I was very thankful for that. And so that's kind of the shift, I would say, somewhere in like 2008, 2009, where I went from doing a few shows. Started in 2007, but by 2009, that's when I saw that shift where I could probably start researching coaching. What does it entail? And start kind of working with some friends to help them out. And it just kind of blossomed from there.
So it's an interesting time frame on the chronology of the sport itself, because it began as an actual career probably around 2001. Matter of fact, it was exactly 2002 in the beginning, where I put out my very first ad. I had worked with one competitor formally as a client, and then I decided right at the end of 2001 that I think, like you said, this could be a thing. Like maybe people really want to hire somebody who has the experience and the education. And so I put out this little ad, Dr. Joe's Perfect Peaking, in Natural Bodybuilding Magazine. So that would have been 2002. For the first 5 or so years, probably right about to the time you're describing, I was the only one doing that.
Yeah.
Lane started writing articles, and this is when bodybuilding.com was kind of the only social media forum on the board, so to speak. So you got a view of that in such an infancy that it had not exploded to what it is now. How did you even find a coach who was willing to help you?
Just like you said, I actually went on bodybuilding.com. I tried to research people, find out who was reputable. I was reaching out to, some clients that they had shared to to get a real expectation. And hired one gentleman. He helped me with a show in 2009, and that was pretty well, but it wasn't necessarily the direction that I kind of wanted to go, just because I felt like, I don't know, I just felt like I could have gotten a little more, and there's nothing against that coach specifically. I just felt like I could have gotten more of the coaching experience. So then I took a little bit of time off, kept doing some research, contacted Dr. Lane Norton, and he responded, and so on and so forth. And then we worked together, and I got my pro card through him in 2012. And at that same time, you know, he would at least answer some of the questions I would have, because he knew, I told him up front, I'm going to ask you questions. Like, I want to learn this process. Like that's that connection I felt like I was missing from the previous coach. I just wasn't getting a lot of the in-depth scientific answers that I was wanting to get. And so you know, Lane was kind enough to, if it was going to be a long explanation, he would at least send me the study, and I appreciated that. And so it just kind of kept going from there. And then that's where I saw like the big boom. You know, it was early on. Like I had saw that big boom before I started working with Lane. And I saw you being the first, because you were right. When I didn't know anyone that was doing that. Even in the bodybuilding.com forums, I don't know if Lane at that time was coaching full time. I think he was finishing his PhD.
It took him a while.
Yeah, I
can't
remember.
I talked to him and asked him at one point, like, why are you not doing this? And
Mm-hmm.
he was just busy with school, wanted to get that done first. But I remember speaking with Ryan Doris at a camp, and he created this almost chronology or family tree. He said, you know, Joe was the first, and then Joe coached Lane, and you know, both of us being in Evansville, Indiana, we had that connection. And then Ryan said, you know, I was kind of the third wave. There were people like me and Paul Ravella maybe Ben Escrow and other people, even in the strength arena, that just kind of created a platform. And then the floodgates opened.
Yep.
Then it was like everybody in the world just all of a sudden wanted to be or became a coach.
Mm-hmm.
They just created that business, you know, facade, and they were up and running. So how do you view that now? I see you smiling, like, you know, there's some good and bad, it seems like, in that whole.
I'm smiling because I watched that happen. I mean, it's just weird to me. I'm smiling because I'm thinking, man, back in 2007, I never would have thought I would have been to where it is today. But I literally watched every step that you just said happen in front of me, to where it was you and then Lane was always on bodybuilding.com. And again, this is like social media. We didn't really have a lot of this information on YouTube yet like we do today. So you just went to bodybuilding.com and you tried to find, and you know, then you've got Lane putting out articles, and you were putting out articles in the Natural Bodybuilding. So I was very excited that I had access to that at least. But you kind of had to wait a while. You had to wait till it got posted in the forum. You had to wait till the new issue of the magazine came out. So things weren't as fast as it is now.
So I'll tell you a little bit of a transformation I had, because I initially was angry as what I perceived as a bit of a guardian of ethics.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember I was speaking with Lane at one of his camps in Tampa, and I was still in that mindset that, my gosh, if you don't have the education, if you don't have the skill, the experience, this is dangerous, this is horrible. I was seeing people who had never even compete end up coaching. And I was dumbfounded that anybody would even do that. And Lane said, you know, it's just going to happen. Like, you're going to have all of these coaches come in. And so he said, I would rather help them. And I disagreed, but then when it just got to be more and more and more and more and more, and I did not see the dietetics legislation being protected. I didn't see any ethical boundaries, no guidelines, no self-regulation whatsoever. I thought, okay, either I'm just going to sit here and complain about it, or I'm going to have to be somebody who steps back up and continues to lead. So we created the National Academy of Metabolic Science with Tyler Mayer. Before that, of course, I have the Diet Doc as a company that we are creating program owners. We're educating them. We're supporting them. We have 2 medical directors. We have a dietetics director. So not only does anybody working with us become legal,
right,
they also become far more educated, supported, mentored. Now we have an easier step even into that process with the National Academy of Metabolic Science. But still, that's kind of a, you know, spitting in the wind kind of scenario when we have so many people doing this. So without getting into right or wrong, good or bad, you know, good versus evil, we'll keep all the value judgment out. What do you see as the potential and best future for our industry? Because it's here now.
Yes.
So as a 30-year-old, new guard coach, I've kind of passed the baton off to your generation to say, okay, it's yours. What are we going to do? So what are you going to do?
I think the shift that we're seeing is the education. Like I said, I'll keep the good and bad because I can go off on that for a while. But I think with YouTube, I mentioned just a second ago, with how fast-paced we can get that info out, I think that's how we can continue to impact people. Quality education, science-based information at a more efficient time for the consumer. I think we can get that out a lot more efficiently than we did back in the early 2000s, even late 90s, when it was just, okay, it's been a month, here's the magazine, let's skip through the hundreds of pictures and get to the articles. That's a great article, not wait till the next one. Like, it just was, that's just what you did. But now it's like, we can do podcasts, we can do YouTube, and we can get that information out there quicker. And we can continue to touch even more people across the world. So I think with the new age, it's just going to be getting a lot of that information out faster, and it's just going to be able to help us impact more people, which is always the goal and always has been the goal, at least for me, and I know for you as well.
And there's always a buyer beware component to anything. It is up to the consumer to say, well, this person is qualified and educated or has the experience. This person is not. Unfortunately, we do see not all buyers are making the best decisions. So on social media, I see almost every day a lot of coaches create these fights, almost straw man, false enemy fights, where they seem to almost just wake up every day and say, bad coaches, bad coaches, bad coaches. And there's all these rants going on, of course, insinuating that they're the good guy.
Yes.
I just don't engage in that kind of stuff. To me, it's completely fruitless and just divisive. But I still, like I said, want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to create what I'm considering to be a self-regulating, self-policing industry. We have to have best practices. We have to have standards. And I think the way we do that, because those kind of agencies don't exist, is we just have to create the standard ourselves. This is what is expected. And if you're going to work with shitbag, horrible people who are going to do harm unintentionally, but realistically they are, we can't do that. That's just going to happen anywhere. So one of the reasons why I'm excited to be here with you is you are the good guy persona, in my opinion, because you have your degree in business. You decided that's not good enough, because even if you have the knowledge and the experience as an athlete yourself, you wanted to go get a degree in dietetics. You're also rooted right here at Great Life, which is a fitness facility hybrid model in 4 states. You're a regional manager. I think that is going to be something that you will look back on 10, 20 years from now and say, gosh, I'm glad I did that, because I got to build credibility in an actual physical local community. It's something I teach our diet program owners all the time. You're going to have local community members, physicians, other people who trust you, who know that you're not just a personal trainer. You're not representing an old guard, just big box weight loss kind of chain, but you're on that cutting edge of science and evidence-based thinking. But it's a real career to me. Yes. And I have to be careful how I say that, because online work and online entrepreneurship is a thing. But I think in this whole Insta-fame world, it can be very short-lived. It can become very unsatisfying if you are not anchored in something else. So I just love everything you're doing, partially because it kind of reminds me of what I did.
Yeah.
And the parts of my career I like. Some things I would do over again if I could. But I think you're really hitting on something that's going to make you more multifaceted and going to bring you a lot more joy. And you're just going to be able to impact a lot more people. And this being a coaching clinic segment for our Life Mastery podcast, I mean, that's the model I would tell anybody to really consider engaging in right at the beginning of your career. At least start building in that direction. So was all of this intentional? Do you see what you're creating here as this is exactly what I want to do? Or are you kind of creating stepping stones?
Initially, this is what I'm doing now is what I wanted to do, but I struggle with settling, and I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I also look for more. Like, so I love what I'm doing. This is exactly what I want to be doing, is impacting people more than just one way, more than just bodybuilders, more than just powerlifters, general population. Just even like with golf and fitness, just trying to help other people. Like, I just love truly helping people, and I don't believe just being stuck in one demographic. If that is what someone wants to do, I completely respect that. I think that kind of ties in with what you said earlier about too many people just good coach, bad coach, because they're only doing this, they're only doing that. It's like, well, whatever. I could go off on that in a whole other segment. But my biggest thing is I just want to impact more people's lives. And it's because of pioneers like yourself. I saw that early. I saw that there was Team K, Doc, looking your information. Like, you had all of these things that you had already been doing and have done. And I'm like, that's kind of like me. Like, people used to give me a hard time. Like, you just like doing a lot of different things. You're right, I do. I like to do a lot of different things. I like to be universal. I'm not saying that means to just focus and hone in on being great at one thing, but why can't you be really good at one thing, but also have these sub things that you're able to implement with, like yourself, physical therapy degree, nutrition. You've pioneered a way to make all of that fit into one thing. That's exactly what I wanted to do. And so it's nice to have mentors like you to be able to talk and discuss and do these things and learn how to blossom that into a bigger thing. And now I see myself going, even farther with just in the local community, tying in and pushing those limits of, we're more than just a gym. We're more than just a nutritional program. We're more than just personal training. We are really about just helping impact your life in all facets. And I think that's another thing that we're seeing a shift in culture, because you're seeing a lot of people that they're realizing that they maybe just don't want to be just a nutrition coach or just a exercise coach. You're seeing people, I don't want to say lifestyle coach, because I think that term gets watered down too much, and but there's a lot of people I'm seeing in mutual friends and colleagues that we know that are doing those same things. They're trying to impact people on a lot of different facets. So to me, that's an exciting time.
And I like what you're saying, because it makes me think of what was our theme at the Diet Doc annual conference this year, which is you can no longer build a business on information. It has to be on experience. Mm-hmm. That's a little bit painful for me to say, because I built my business on information. This is science. This is how you do it. And I had to almost create an entire foundation of best practice knowledge for the rest of the industry you see now to be built upon, because it just didn't exist. You had registered dietitians who were working in school systems and hospitals and maybe with diabetics. You had big chain clinics working with some Gen Pop people, and that was literally it. So bridging that gap, bringing nutrition into the fitness professional world, the personal trainers. When I started 25 years ago, personal training was just beginning. There was one personal trainer in Indiana, and I knew that guy. I know, and now, think how far that's come in 25 years. So the next iteration of personal training was when personal trainers started dabbling with nutrition. And now, that almost, I think, has lived an entire life cycle where it's almost dying off, and now you have to have something more than that. And what you're describing is the normal cycle of any business, where you create innovation, there's a proof of concept point or acceptance, then there's a maturity, then everybody in the world does it, and so there's kind of a race to the bottom. Then there has to be some kind of new innovation. And what you're describing in what you are creating with competitive athletes, with regular athletes, with life athletes or Gen Pop lifestyle clients, where you're saying, I am universal, but my unique experience level and education gives me some niche opportunities, mm-hmm. especially within a community here.
Yeah.
So I think that's important for most coaches to know, is you can follow kind of a generalist pathway into coaching, but the only way you're going to survive is if you have some kind of specialty, some kind of skill set that allows you to create experiences for clients that are very novel. Mm-hmm. That's how you get to the top and create a sustainable career.
Yeah, and the education part is the huge key in that, I believe, because we've talked this weekend about continuing education. Like, we talked about, one of your clients, you had tried something different, and I loved it because I'm like, yeah, I've kind of practiced with this too a little bit. And I've had my curiosities, and you and I had conversed about that, and it was exciting to know for someone that has saw much success, the pioneer of online coaching, still continuing to learn and find a different way to impact your clients, your people's lives. So even for someone that maybe doesn't have that formal location, but they have that niche, they have that experience, because we know, like you said, experience is where it's at now more than information. It's hard for me too, because I've wanted to go back and be that information kind of guy. But I think as that climb happens, if people aren't focusing on education in some way, shape, or form, whether it's continuing education with like certifications or going back to school or doing whatever, I think that they start to hit that plateau, because now they're just focusing on one demographic, one way of thinking, you know what I mean? And now it's kind of like, well, if you want to work with this coach, I can already tell you what that coach is going to have you do step by step, because they just don't change. And I've seen that before. We're having different people to talk to, different little camps, clinics, seminars. By learning a lot of that new information, it just makes you a better coach. And again, it makes you not be that one that races so far to the bottom. You just kind of stay steady and consistent and keep climbing. But, that goes back to the mindset of the coach. And we've talked about that earlier too. Like, where is your mindset with coaching? Is it to feed your ego, or is it to help impact your clients' lives?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I think that's a great point to wrap this up on, because I do think my attraction to your career, and you kind of created a little bit of a pathway to yourself for me, because with all of the coaches out there that I see, I instantly saw not only your credibility, I'm looking up people's backgrounds, but you are somebody who's very curious, who's hungry to know more. And I quote this study often. The Harvard Business Review did a long-term study where they looked at all of the leaders in every industry. And whoever's at the top of every single industry, they said there's one glaring common denominator, and that is that they have the most open source, open relationship mentality, even cross-industry. So instead of somebody saying, oh, this is my intellectual property, this is my this, we're going to patent it and hide it, you can't do it. They just have a much more global perspective of, let's elevate the entire industry. Let's elevate the entire world. Let's do the best we can for our consumers. And I know that is truly in your mindset, which is you just want to do the right thing for your clients and for the sport and for the state of nutrition and health and wellness. And that's not, it's not common. It's just not.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that it's not common, but it's funny you say that, because I saw that with you from the beginning. You're putting out articles. You're the pioneer with online coaching. So what you just said matches exactly of my experience with you. If you would not have been that open about it, I don't know necessarily if doing online coaching would be something that I would be doing. I might have just continued on a different path. Maybe would have been in the health and fitness industry still, but it may not have been going back to school, because that information was now hidden. You know what I mean? So I think it aligns with a lot of what you did early on. I definitely can't thank you enough for that. I could probably think of at least 15, 20 coaches right now that could thank you for that as well, because I know they've got similar stories because they followed pioneers like yourself early on, and now they're doing online coaching full time.
Well, the industry is now being handed to you and your generation. So Austin.kjergaard, owner of Perform Right Online Coaching. And if you're in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, or the surrounding states where he's managing all these facilities, you will see him. But I'm sure we're going to see you more in a lot of different places.
Yes, I agree. I hope so.
Awesome,
Thanks,
awesome.
Joe. Thank you for having me on.
And thank you guys for watching and listening. We will catch you next time.
Thanks, guys.